Welcome back to our channel. This is our review of Sanity of Morris. Please, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, give it a thumbs up, and share it. Put on your tinfoil hats in Sanity of Morris as you investigate an alien conspiracy theory in this first-person thriller. You'll have to hide and sneak your way around shady government agents and bizarre-looking aliens. Sanity of Morris is about Jonathan Morris, a young man who one day gets a weird call from his father asking him to visit him. While on the road, John's car is rammed into a tree by a suspicious white van. What unfolds next is a story about government conspiracies, creepy aliens, and shady organizations. The game's first major flaw reveals itself during the intro sequence: QTEs. These aren't any normal QTEs though. The button mapping on some of them was abnormal to say the least. During the game's first few cutscenes, in order to run away from the agents looking for you, you'll have to mash the up button on the D-pad. Yup, that's right, you'll have to mash the only button on the dual chalk 4 that wasn't meant to be mashed. The QTEs are inconsistent as well, as some of them will result in deaths if they weren't pressed quickly enough, while the rest of them are meaningless. During the intro's car scene, a deer jumps in front of your car and you have to press one of the buttons to swerve away from it, but the game doesn't punish you for failing to quickly doing so. So the screen will just freeze until you press the button. The cutscenes are also some of my major annoyances with the game. They constantly strip away the controls from you just so you could clear Jonas's thoughts for a second or two. The game could have easily kept me in control while the protagonist said what he wanted to say. The game's first few hours will have you exploring Jonathan's childhood home and its surrounding areas. It's not long before you discover that your dad was involved in a secret government project and he actually believes that aliens are real. You'll spend an hour or so exploring the house in its darkest corners. This was by far my favorite part of the game. Snooping around and trying to find any clues about his whereabouts was fun while it lasted. Unfortunately, not long afterwards, the game decides to throw you down a literal rabbit hole and into the alien's lair. The next few hours will be spent solving puzzles that involves using your trusty flashlight and playing hide and seek with the alien invaders. Most puzzles can be solved just by shining the light on the right spot. I love the game's simple premise, though it's disappointing that the level design struggled to be as interesting. Bad design choices, repetitive locations, and bland graphics made the whole game a struggle to play through. It is such a shame that the middle section of Sanity of Morris is set in one of the most derivative, mundane, and frustratingly designed settings I've ever witnessed in a game. The previously mentioned green maze-like pod-shaped spaceship that's covered with overgrown vines and patrolled by the octopus-looking aliens. Be careful not to get caught, as they'll release their tentacles and probe your brain if they catch you, resulting in a game over screen. Thankfully, the loading screens are brief, so getting stuck in the same location as you figure out your next move isn't that frustrating. The broken AI makes things easier as well, as it's not difficult to just literally sneak behind them and get past them. What is difficult though is finding out what you're supposed to do next, as the game doesn't guide you or tell you what to do next, and the level design doesn't help things out in that regard. Navigating this labyrinth of endless derivative bland corridors and hallways was an absolute chore. To say that the game's graphics are mediocre would be an understatement. At least on the PS4 version, the environments are blurry, uninspiring, and drab. The first location was the best looking one, and even it wasn't that good. The walls textured of Jonathan's childhood home lacked any details, and most objects had jagged edges, similar to what you'd expect on a PS2 era game. I don't know if I should blame the developers for that though, as I've noticed that these kinds of blurry textures and jagged edges are usually the byproduct of porting a Unity game onto consoles. I've encountered the same issue in Silver Chains a while back, so I'll cut the game some slack on that regard. Based on what I've seen in the PC screenshots of the game, it looks more than decent, so definitely check out the PC versions first. Sanity of Morris uses a red filter that covers the screen for no reason at times. I think the game was trying to imitate Amnesia's sanity meter, except it's never properly explained here, and it constantly obscured my vision, making the game more frustrating than it should be. Things were confusing enough without having ketchup smeared on the screen every few minutes. Even dying and restarting from the last checkpoint didn't make the obnoxious effect go away. Overall, besides its intriguing premise, Sanity of Morris does little to keep you entertained throughout its 6 to 7 hours of gameplay. It constantly gets on your nerves with its bizarre design choices and poor level design. The dumbed down AI of its antagonist also cheapens any challenging aspects that the game might have had. Instead, the only challenge you'll get is an obnoxious and frustrating exercise in trying to navigate the drab repetitive locations without any guidance whatsoever. Ultimately, the game was let down by its ambition and scope. Any mystery and intrigue that the first few hours had was thrown out the window a mere minutes later. Sanity of Morris would have been a much better game if it just had perfected the first two sections of the game, instead of adding a third section that I can't discuss in this review since it's heavy in spoilers. It is a shame that this could have been a great entry in one of my gaming's favorite genres, had the folks over at AlterEgo Games reconsidered some of their design choices. And thus we conclude our gaming review. If you liked this video, please don't forget to share and subscribe, and thank you for sticking around till the end. Until next time.